yourself doing something you felt like you should do, even though you realized that it had zero value to your life? Well, I caught myself in the process of this the other day. I had felt compelled to do some homework for an online course that made absolutely no sense for me to complete. It wasn't going to be helpful for me. It wasn't going to hurt anybody if I didn't do it, yet I still almost did it anyway. And this got me to thinking about how many invisible rules that we all follow every day. Rules that we learned a really long time ago that don't serve us anymore, and rules that just keep us too busy and too stressed. That quiet pressure to do it all or to do it the right way runs really deep inside many of us. So if you can relate to this, this video is for you. Let's bring these rules out in the open so that you can watch out for them. And today, that's what we'll do. I'll share some examples of some societal rules or expectations that many people follow, either out of habit or out of conditioning. And they do so even when it sucks up time or when it has no personal benefit at all. I'll also highlight some of the underlying reasons why we might feel compelled to follow these rules, as I think that when we know the real reason, it can really help you decide with greater intention whether you want to do the thing or not. You simply can't create a slower, less stressful life if you follow the same rules that you learned growing up in a very fast-paced, productivity-obsessed world. So we already talked about the first rule, doing things because the structure was set up for you to do them in a certain way. I'm really trying to get in the habit of asking myself, does it make sense for me to do this the normal way or the way that the directions say to do it? Sometimes there's a better way, and sometimes it's better not to do it at all. Let's move on to the other examples of rules that you might be following without even realizing it. How about deep cleaning your house before company comes over? Now, I can understand not wanting there to be clutter all over the place or a big pile of dirty dishes in the sink, because a clean and organized space, it feels welcoming and it invites a sense of peace when you have a guest over. But is it really necessary to clean the entire house before inviting someone in? Or is the real reason for the extra cleaning because you don't want someone to judge you and you don't want to feel judged? Also, with respect to cleaning, which takes a lot of time, many of us, myself included, have common rules or expectations around how often we need to undertake certain cleaning tasks. I know quite a few people that run the vacuum on a daily basis, whether it needs it or not. And maybe this makes sense if you have pets or if you have toddlers, but for most people, experts say that a weekly cleaning is perfectly sufficient. So I think it's worth asking yourself, what cleaning tasks would you consider pushing your own expectations on from what you've learned in the past, what you've been taught? The next subconscious rule is one that I definitely struggle with sometimes. It's to finish every book you start, or very similar, to keep watching a movie even though you aren't really into it. I mean, why do we do this? My husband Kurt, he'll get up and go to bed in the middle of a movie with no problem at all. And I'll be sitting there sticking with it to the very end, and then I'll think to myself, well, that was a big waste of time. And then I'm a little aggravated with myself. Is it because it's hard to go back on a decision that we've made? Or the other thing is, I think I keep having a desire to keep watching because I hope it's going to get better, even though 9 times out of 10 it never does. So I don't know why I do that either. Or maybe it's the rule that once you start something, you must complete it. I think I can definitely feel a little pull from that one too. So for those of you who cook, how about the rule that you must follow every step in the recipe, even when you know that it really doesn't matter But if this one hits home to you, perhaps there is a subconscious rule that you have to follow directions exactly. The reality is that directions are there for if you need them, and it's often fun to take an alternative path, even if it leads to dead ends. So here's another common one: saying yes to every invitation or every opportunity. And this applies both to societal events, social events, as well as invitations to meetings that you know you won't get anything from, or that you know you won't add any value to either. I can't tell you how many meetings that I went to over the course of my career that were a complete waste of my time. There could be many reasons for feeling compelled to do this. It's because you feel like people expect you to, or maybe you feel a sense of obligation. It could be that you don't want to let people down. There's also feeling busy equates to this feeling of worthiness. And then also maybe that you just have a fear that you might miss something. I think it's really wise to ask yourself, what's the best use of my time? Maybe you could contribute your thoughts just as easily in an email to the organizer of the meeting before the start of the meeting, and then spend that time accomplishing something that could be really important, maybe an important project. I think we've been conditioned to the rule that showing up means that we're being a good person. But in reality, getting a project done may be more valuable than showing up. And when I think back on the high achievers at the company that I used to work for, they didn't show up to a lot of meetings. But before we go on to the next one, let's stick with work here for a minute, as it really did take me years to realize that you don't always have to say yes to whatever you're requested to do at work either. It's just not that simple. I think a better approach that I wish I had learned earlier is to have a list of priorities always within your reach, so that when a new project gets presented to you, you can ask and you can have a conversation with your manager about what other priorities need to shift, rather than just trying to absorb it all, which is what I did for many, many years. And when you do good work, this actually does work fairly well, as most managers will recognize that for you to continue to do good work, you can't do everything. They'll also appreciate the fact that you're organized by having your priority list, and also by keeping them abreast of the things that you're working on, and letting them choose what needs to take top priority. So this next one I've talked about in a couple of my recent videos as well, but I definitely think it belongs on the list here too. And that's always responding to messages right away. There seems to be a societal rule now that what's considered to be polite or expected of you is to respond right away. And it's kind of become a cultural expectation, this instant reply. Even when it's not urgent as a result, you may feel compelled to interrupt your flow or interrupt your time off to take care of this perceived responsibility, when sometimes a reply isn't necessary that quickly, or isn't necessarily at all. And then it frees up time for you if you're not always trying to stay on top of your inbox. So if you're still with me here, this is your invitation to start breaking the rules. Start thinking about these type of things. It's not just about breaking rules, really. It's more about living on purpose. It's about questioning the systems and the beliefs and these unspoken rules that show up in our minds and in our bodies, the ones that end up filling our days with things that don't actually matter to us. Just remember, you are allowed to change your mind, and you are allowed to skip what doesn't serve you. You are allowed to redefine what a good life looks like for you. And so this week, I invite you to try and notice what invisible rules are still guiding your own choices, where you feel that inner tug. And what would it be like to break just one of them? Because this life that you're craving, it probably doesn't need more from you. It probably just needs a little less of what no longer fits for you. I'm sure that there are plenty of other unwritten rules that I haven't touched on here today. So I'd love to know what ones you think I've missed in the comments. Share them there because it can be really helpful for us to be more aware of these things, and it will help us live more intentionally. So if you aren't already subscribed here, that is what my channel is all about, living intentionally. I would love to have you join me on this journey. Bring a friend along while you're at it. I think it's always so much easier to make progress on this type of thing when you're doing it with a friend. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Now let's get on out there, listen in, and let's break some rules together.